guys, welcome back to another edition of Chats from the Blog Cabin. Today I'm joined by Tracy. She's an international award-winning publicist and humanitarian. She empowers women, and she's also going to give us some tips on building your profile with media. So welcome, Tracy. Tell us a little about yourself before we get into what you actually do.
So on the personal side, I'm a mom of two. One is in her 20s already, which is unbelievably hard to believe, almost 30. And my son is going to be 18 this year. And I've been married 26 years, just had my anniversary. And yes, I'm a international award-winning publicist is my bio, but which is true. But basically, yeah, I like to say that I elevate and celebrate what awesome, amazing people are doing, whether they're authors or entrepreneurs or, people with a message or people in the creative art. So I'm privileged to be able to have a life where I get to, work alongside amazing people, pointing a finger at what they're doing and, elevating it basically.
So how did you get started being a publicist?
So that story is not one that any other publicist has a trajectory for. Essentially, I wrote my first press release when I was just in marketing with no intention of making a career out of it. And that didn't happen for another 15 years. But just to get the word out, literally to help a guy that we believed at the time was innocent on death row. And he was innocent on death row. The world has since agreed and the courts agreed, and he was released in 2017. And now he's up for, to be getting a big load of money to make up for that time, for whatever you can do to make up for, loss of half of your life. But that's why I first learned to write a press release. There was no intention of making a career out of it, no intention of any monetary reward or anything. Literally was about the messaging. And we were successful at that messaging, which eventually led to a legal team getting involved who was looking for a case of factual innocence. And because we'd made up enough noise about that their attention was drawn to him. And it took years and years, the way it does, till just the wheels of justice turn slowly. But ultimately that was successful. And separate from that, a few years before he was actually released, it suddenly occurred, and this is 15 years after I learned to write that press release. And we'd had all this successful messaging in the time in between. And I'd also, been asked to be a campaign manager at some point. It suddenly hit me that I was a publicist and that people actually pay for that skill. I hadn't gone to school for 4 years, but I certainly had a string of successes in major media that, a lot of publicists working for 10 years in the field couldn't claim. So that's my little bit of inspiration too. And I mean, most people may not have that dramatic a story, but we all have something we love, whether it's, sports or cooking or reading or something. And if you may not, have thought about all the different jobs that you could create around some of those things, where you might actually love your life instead of hating it every day and hating getting up in the morning and, instead actually create a life where there's no real difference between the things you like to do and your work, which is nice.
So let's talk about freeing an innocent man from death row. How did you get involved with that?
That's, a crazy story that sounds so epic when you tell it at the end, after the 25 years. But at the beginning, we were just, my husband and myself, Dave Parkinson, we were just advocates, activists, young people in our 20s, as people in your 20s are activists and advocates about things and passionate and want to change the world. And we had a platform a couple of years before that. We had a radio show on CAUT 89.5 FM in Toronto, which we didn't have anymore by that time. But it was the early days of the internet. So you now had a voice and this thing that you could make a website on and, speak to the world. So we started doing the same kind of stuff we were doing on our radio show, which was looking for news and talking about issues of racism. I guess it wasn't wrongful conviction in those days, but just things that were wrongs being done. And so somehow we just found this, and it's funny because he had paid, there was some site that would charge prisoners to be online. We would never been on a site like that, but somehow, I don't know, something drew, for the racism or whatever else. The internet, you get down those rabbit holes. And all of a sudden we're in a rabbit hole where this guy's saying, I'm not looking for a girlfriend. I'm not looking for this or that. This is just literally my only avenue to speak to the world. I'm on death row and I'm innocent. Please help me. I don't know why we wrote to him. I don't know what called me and my husband to do it, but we thought, I remember so clearly, how innocent can this guy be? And for some reason we wrote. I don't know why we didn't have any history in doing anything like that, death row and prisoners and murders stuff. That's not in my, other than on TV, none of that was in my reality, right? But something called us to do it. And he wrote back 18 pages, tightly written, both sides. I don't know what, what struck him to write back and to grab that thing to believe in us or whatever. So we didn't know what we were going to do because we weren't publicists, we weren't lawyers, but we had this little website. So we had the power of the internet. So we thought, well, let's put that up there. And then how do we get people to know about it? So I've heard of this thing called a press release. And I literally went to Alta Vista, the precursor of Google. And I remember so clearly, a year ago, I found that first press release that I wrote for Jimmy Dennis in 1999. And we, looked up how to write a press release, and I wrote it and started sending it around. That one got a little play here internationally, here and there, and then we did another one, and ultimately we ended up advocating, pretty much against the death penalty in general as a result of that, because our eyes were opened as to just some of the craziness that we say in that movement. The support for the death penalty is a mile wide and an inch deep, because when you start actually looking at it, you go, oh, except I don't agree with that, or that, or that, or that. People don't realize like how crazy it is, right? So we were learning all that, and so it became more than just the Jimmy Dennis case. He was the only one that we were talking about. This is an innocent man, let him out now. We were also talking about the death penalty, which got us, because we were savvy and smart, and how we pre-publicists, I guess we were publicists without knowing it. We would tell our story well, and we would get all kinds of media. So we were on CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, all that stuff. And so it finally hit me one day, like years later, like I said, that I was in telemarketing and just doing stupid work for things I didn't care about, just paying the bills. And at the end of the day, I'd go and do my other death penalty work or the stuff I was passionate about. But it suddenly hit me, that's a real skill, marketing or like PR, media, that most people just don't even have any understanding of or access to, or, know how to get in there. And there I was in our 20s getting us on these major international media, so that if I could do that, certainly I can, segue that into. So funnily enough, if you were going to advise someone on how to start a PR career, doing messaging for other people, you would never say, go find some extremely controversial issue like the death penalty and then be really public on it and build your own. So, because if you Google me, my name now, you'll find 1,000 articles about my death penalty work from back in the day. And now you'll find another 1,000 about me as a professional grown-up woman with the active, so that stuff, it's still very much a part of my public life, and I'm fine with that, and if people have not chosen me to work with them because of that, then, that's their prerogative. But I don't hear about them. I hear about the ones that come to me and say, you're obviously a mover and a shaker, and you're passionate about what you do, and, you're good at what you do, and do it for me. And that's how I feel privileged that I've been able to build a career, with just diverse messages in terms of the people and the messages and the types of people, meaning whether they're entrepreneurs or authors or public speakers, but I stand behind every one of them. I don't work for governments. I don't work for, politicians where because then I'm going to have to change that messaging, or it's not going to be the same kind of genuine. It can't be, when there's too many interests, they have to spin things, they have to explain things to different populations and try to make things sound better so that they don't, that's not the kind of, I don't want to be in that kind of PR. I want a genuine messaging, celebrate, like I say, elevating and celebrating people that are doing amazing things, using the skills that somehow I've developed, to give platforms to other people.
So who needs to hire a publicist? You said you want to elevate other people. So when do you know you need to hire a publicist?
So, you hear the term thought leader now. How do people get to that? How do people stop just doing what they're doing and get in the news to talk about it? How do they become the ones that are quoted on television? How are they the guy, So pretty much everybody, and people, my whole book that's coming out, Get Repped, is about speaking to entrepreneurs and businesses about why it's them. Because a lot of times, especially as women too, we'll see, the women getting awards, or the ones on TV or whatever, they're them. Oh, wow, look what they're doing. And I'm just me. That's a huge thing with women. I don't care what you do. Like I say, if you mow lawns, if you're a maid, if you whatever, there's media opportunities for you to be talking about what you do, and to either people in your field or people outside of your field. And that's, as much as I work with celebrities and authors and public speakers and, film producers, and all those people are on my current client list, people are often surprised when I go through the job list of the rest of my client list, which right now, literally, when I look at, is I have a podiatrist, I have a psychoanalyst, I have a psychologist, I have a diversity expert, I have a luxury real estate agent, I have a founder of a new beauty product, I have a mortgage agent, I have an SEO and marketing guy, I have a diabetes expert, I have a neuromarketing. So these are people that are just And like
Mhm.
just experts in the field, like we all are experts in our field, and there's two aspects to PR and that people don't know. One is obviously people hear about the press release or the media advisory where you're having a launch or you have a story to tell, and you strategically think of how to tell to media. It often falls flat because you got to really understand a lot of things beyond just sending them the note, right? But there's that. But then there's a whole other side of the world, which, it's everything from services that match up people, podcasters with potential guests. There are similar services that match up mainstream media like television, radio,
Mhm.
newspapers with individuals. When you read, Parenting Magazine, and it talks about, Eliza who has twins in Arkansas with feeding disorder or whatever, and you wonder, how did they get those people? Well, they do call outs, and through Publicist, through these services where you don't have to be a publicist to be on them. We're all on them if we are, but you also can be an individual just wants to take the time to look through everything from Cosmopolitan, like daily. Cosmopolitan's in there every single day. I'm not kidding. Looking for an expert on threesomes, whatever that expertise would be. It doesn't say. Just you can pitch yourself, and maybe so that literally stuff like that, to like generic entrepreneur, like just looking for entrepreneurs to speak about the entrepreneur experience. So tons of opportunity to insert yourself, to get those. I was telling the story in another podcast. I had one client, 26 years old. She's with me now 3 years later, because with this kind of results, of course. She had zero media experience, 26 years old, a life coach like a million other people, with nothing to differentiate herself one from the other. So she had this idea, if she was sharing, her personal experience, which happened to be living successfully with bipolar, that people would be like, oh, she knows what she's talking about. She has something to share with me. So she hired me, and I gave her my rock bottom price because she's just a young kid and she didn't have a lot of whatever, right? And the very next day on that service, I see Good Housekeeping looking for women between 25 and 40 willing to share their story of bipolar. So I pitched it to that reporter. The reporter answered. She loved her. Yeah, but she did a good job once she got her on the phone. And the reporter says to me, well, not only is she going to be in the magazine, which is their first thing out of the gate, not a podcast, nothing, literally Good Housekeeping, 150-year-old American magazine, right? With huge cachet. But she was in the print issue. They put her in the print issue.
Mhm.
So it's one of the 5 magazines at the checkout counter, like that, iconic. And there she was. I'm at the checkout in Canada, and there it is. I am not my mental illness. So for the next 5 years, or the next year, sorry, we've been together 2 years now, or a year. Every single pitch now has that added as featured in the Good Housekeeping story. I am not my mental illness. So now 50% of the podcast, everybody wants to talk to her that I pitch now, because, that's that social proof. So it's anytime. So she's a 26-year-old just starting her career. Authors ask me, is it good before the book, a month before, after the book? There's no bad time, because we're pitching you as the expert. So if there's a product as well, like a launch or something, we're cognizant of that or whatever. But even with a book launch or a product launch, only about 20% of media will care about your book or your product.
Mhm.
The other 80% cares about the people and the ideas and how it benefits and all that. So it's always about you as a person. And so when is a good time? Whenever you're ready, whenever you feel comfortable. And if you don't feel comfortable, get comfortable. Especially now, because now, in the old days, you could get away with not doing that. But now, there's so many platforms that your competitors are on them. And if people are going searching, for someone that does what you do, and you and somebody else is in the running, but you have all these news articles about you and all this stuff, and your neighbor doesn't, who do you think you're going to be more likely to go to? It's
Mhm.
as seen on TV, has a lot of cachet, but not advertising, because it's different now, right? We're all more
Mhm.
cognizant of advertising, and we're not impressed by the deep pocket and the voiceover. It's that
Yeah.
social credit of being interviewed as an expert. That's still impressive, and that makes a huge difference.
So you mentioned call outs. What are those?
Call outs.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's when I was talking about this service, like, for example, the Hero that I was just mentioning, where the reporters are looking for. So, and that's a real world thing they can do. Like, go and research it right now. It's a free service. Oh my goodness. You know what's hilarious? Right now, I looked at my computer. right? As I just said, it's a free service. Go look at it. And in my inbox, right this second, no word of a lie, 5:10 p.m. from someone named Charlotte Anderson. I'm going to click on it right now. Harrow, new pitch. This is fantastic, Tracy. I'll use it. Thank you. I clicked on it. Let me see. Oh, look at that. I just got my client. What publication was this for now? Oh my goodness. Okay. So a writer for readers. This is for reader. I just got my client in Reader's Digest as we sat here based on an email that I sent 5 minutes before. No word of a lie. Before we spoke, I had asked, I'd seen a request from this service looking for an etiquette expert to speak about the etiquette of what we're doing right now, the new etiquette of Zoom, the etiquette of Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a civility expert who's a client, a couple of etiquette experts as clients. And she speaks, particularly this one, about business etiquette and how it affects your bottom line and, by different kinds of civility. So I just saw on this service a call out, literally as you asked me before our call, I had seen a call out for an etiquette expert who can speak on Zoom. So I had messaged it to my client and she messaged me back before our call. I had sent it to the reporter. I have a great pitch for your story that's coming out in Reader's Digest. And so the reporter, who also, by the way, I'm looking now, the writer, she's a writer for not just Reader's Digest. So I just made that connect and been told my client's going to be in Reader's Digest. She also writes for O Magazine, Oprah, Women's Health, Red Book, 17, Shape. So now there's 7 different, this reporter
Mm-hmm.
is a news source that I can pitch good stories for any of those that would fit any of those articles. So any client who comes to me now, and those are a whole bunch of articles, I have a lot of women in health, and she writes for Women's Health. So see how that just happened? So I just got the one client Reader's Digest from that free service, help a reporter out that anybody can sign up to. And as a result, I'm going to be, now that she's responded to me, I've got her email, her bio, and I can see what other things would be of interest to her so I can think of other stories to pitch her.
So the free services help a reporter out. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. But the key before you start, because obviously those are competitive and a lot of people are pitching, their answers. The key, like I always say, life's a pitch. That's a P, not a B, a pitch. Before you reach out to your local reporter with any messaging, before you use Harrow, any of it, make your pitch compelling. So have a 1-paragraph thing that is your bio, but it's not just like your bio, because the point of it is to show them that you would be an interesting segment. So it's your bio with a little bit of kick, and sometimes you'd include an idea like, and by kick, I just mean exciting language and, make it sound like she makes a great segment on television talking about, food, travel, lifestyle, crafts. You know what I mean? Like you would make it, you'd make it say like, for example, she could do a great segment on what crafts to do with your kids while you're stuck in COVID. So you've given them an idea. They're like, oh shoot. Yeah. Okay. So you're not just saying, hey, that's what I do and leaving it up to them to figure out. You're actually suggesting them good content, right? That's the key. So before you reach out to your mainstream media, before you reach out to Harrow, and don't get disappointed. It's a numbers game. But with Harrow, the key is answer quickly. Do not get caught up in making it perfect for 3 days, because if 10 other people have answered, the point is they need the quotes. And if they've got their quotes from somebody else, they're not going to go rewrite the article just so they can get Tracy or Melissa into it, So it's getting something good that answers their question, but it's going to sound different than everybody else because they're going to get 20 of them. So don't be one of those 20. Think about the thing that everyone else isn't going to say. Say that. And like I said, I have literally got myself this month, I got a client in New York Times from it. Just a second in front of you, I got a client in Reader's Digest, which is my 3rd Reader's Digest hit this year with 3 different reporters and 3 different stories. So they're out, these are real world ways. And then now this client, I've gotten her a lot of stuff like this before. So she'll be like, oh, awesome. But I mean, if this was a brand new client, she'd be like, oh my God, Reader's Digest. And now we can literally, that could be her calling card for the next year. Be all over her website as seen in Reader's Digest. You put that on your LinkedIn as in Reader's Digest. you know? Done. Boom. Just the second I got that. She doesn't know about it. You know about it. Lou Bayer doesn't know yet that she's going to be in Reader's Digest.
So what are some of the hacks that you can suggest to people to get on the top of their field to get those where people are going to want, they're going to want you on?
Yeah, so the pitch is number one, right? And then if your pitch is wanting, if your pitch you don't think is so convincing yet, you're gonna have to look for those low-hanging fruit media opportunities, right? So that could be writing for Medium. I don't know if you don't know about Medium, you've probably seen it, you probably know, but I mean a lot of people don't know about Medium. And when you read articles on Medium, it looks like the Huffington Post. You don't realize that it's actually not an editorial process. Anybody can post to Medium the same way they can post to Facebook. So if you're a good writer and you can write a good article and you post it, it is a convincing, nice article, nice platform. Even though media knows that Medium's, it's still a nice, articulate place to put writers go there, actual writers put their stories on Medium, right? So you can too. It's a great way to start. And then, podcasts that, I mean, yours is huge and well known, but there's some beginning podcasts that are looking for guests that, that are not that hard to get on, so if you're new, and I mean, obviously with everything, there has to be quality content. Nobody wants garbage, right? But even if you don't have media, if you have good content, a good idea, you can be a good interviewer, you're confident in presenting yourself, you just need to convince that one person. And then after that, you have that social proof. And then there'll be another one, and then there'll be another one, and and that's how it works. So,
so let's talk about your book, your upcoming book. When is your book going to be published? It's called Get Repped.
Yes, my publisher keeps saying too, when is it going to be? And you know what's funny? Lou Bayer, she's the one that I just got in Reader's Digest. She's one of my oldest clients, with me since I was a freelancer 6 years ago. And she is actually, as well as being an etiquette, her book, The 30% Solution, we had made a business bestseller when she first hired me 6 years ago. And after that, she decided to become a publisher and help other people publish. So she did that, has a company called Propriety Publishing, which basically publishes on like business stuff, but soft skills kind of thing. And she literally asked me to write the book on PR. So they've got the cover, they've got the ISBN, they've got everything ready to go. They're just waiting on me to send the last few chapters. And I'm just always so busy working with clients. But literally today, I did an hour. My New Year's resolution is an hour a day. Get that baby finished and get it up. It should be out by a month after I send it to them. So I want to say spring, but chances are it'll probably be summer before it's, out.
I love that. I love how you're collaborating with a client who turns into a publisher, how that whole thing's coming around. I love the full circle.
Right? Everything seems to go that way.
Now let's talk about being authentic in business. Can most people, when you're like pitching them, can they tell when someone's not authentic? What are some of the little things that would put the light bulbs over? Yeah, this person's not really authentic.
Yeah, I don't know what the hints are, but I can tell you, reporters, I can see that a mile away. They are good. They are good. Even just I've never had them say that about my client, thankfully, because my clients are credible and real and authentic. But I've seen reporters interview people, in my activist days, and they would go and interview the guy for the other side, the nasty whoever. And the reporter come back and they have no dog in the fight. They don't know me. They don't care about me. They're just looking for the story, right? And they come back and they said, yeah, I spoke with that guy. He was not credible. Period. They didn't ask me why. They didn't tell me why. They didn't. But they have if we can say, the BS meter. Very strong, engaged BS meter, right? And that's fine with me, because I'm about genuine messaging. In world, in life, in business. I'm not about pretending to be someone you're not, or if you have crazy red hair and you want to have the crazy glasses, that's fine, as long as you have the skills and the history to prove it, and you know when to know how to be appropriate, and you know when to dress up and what to wear. You know what I mean? Breaking rules, you can break rules, but you have to do it properly and do it. By that I mean you got to know what the rules are, what's appropriate, and what lines you can cross and what you can't, and and then you can challenge expectations and all that, and sometimes that's effective, right? But yeah, so just be genuine is, that phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe. It's true in business as it is in personal life. And so, like I said early on, there's no point in, for example, me trying to erase that history that some people could think of controversial. If, for example, they're hugely pro-death penalty, that exists. That was part, of my history. It does, just own that. Even if that was a problematic thing for me right now, which it's not, because I'm happy to, always stand by everything I've always done. But even if it was, from a PR perspective, it'd be like, well, you know what? That's okay, because people that will come to you will come to you. Nobody can serve everybody. I can't serve every, even in my own city or in my own street, I couldn't do every I wouldn't be the right, even if I had the capacity and the work hours, I wouldn't be the right publicist to serve everybody, because I believe, as an ethical, genuine person, I need to actually believe in what I'm promoting. If I feel it and I'm like, oh, I'm excited about it, which I am about all of my projects, because that's why I take them on. When they come to me, it's like, oh, I get it. That's why I think of where I could pitch it and how I could pitch it, because I see the value in it, and I'm, happy to bring it. I don't think if I did it, I've let a client go in the past, not at the beginning. I mean, I finished the contract, but I didn't offer them the opportunity to renew, even in a situation once where I had got them great media and they would have renewed, but I wasn't feeling it. I didn't actually really believe in them. They'd originally hired me. They were an entertainer doing something on TV. It was like a psychic. It was a long time ago, so I can mention it. It was like kind of a psychic thing, but they had a TV show where it was like an entertainment thing. I'm not judging psychics. I don't know enough. They may or may not be true. But in this particular case, I took it on because she was like an entertainer presenting it as entertainment. But then, and she had maybe a 50-50 rate, but then she was also selling it for like $100 an hour as a pet psychic. And she was nice and everything. But then I was like, I noticed things like, you could call her up and ask why, Fido didn't like the red ball. But you couldn't call her up and ask where Fido was if he was lost. She wouldn't take those. So I'm like, okay, whatever, anyway, it's not my thing. If I'm feeling about it, that's not something I want to, nothing wrong with it, but I wasn't feeling it. So I felt not genuine in my messaging. And I'm thrilled and honored to have all kinds of messaging I could feel excited about. So that's my luxury, to be able to take on things I only care about.
So let's talk about that client. With you only take on clients that you believe in. I mean, have there ever been, besides that one that you just said, okay, I'm not going to renew your contract, has there ever been one that you were like, no, kind of not going to do it, but then later on you agree to do it, but then later on you have a great relationship with, because maybe the first impression was not always the best impression?
No, because I'm not really judging the person, unless they were like racist or horrible or like mean or something, but I mean, I'm not really judging, like, am I your best friend? Like, it's more about like, it's the project and what you're selling. Like, 'cause if it doesn't speak to me, I'm really just not your best publicist, because it should be represented by somebody who loves it, just the same as like, who understands it. Like in Canada, for example, cannabis is legal for the last 2 years. It's a huge industry. It's a huge emerging industry with a lot of women working in it, a lot of power women working in all different aspects of it, because it is a new industry, and we haven't seen new industries really in our lifetime, other than tech, which women have not been able to get a really good handle in, right? So, for example, that's a world where if you either get that, and you understand what those consultants and the medical doctors are talking about, or you don't. There's a lot of publicists now, because it is a huge new emerging industry, who are now positioning themselves, just because they don't want to be left out of a huge emerging billion-dollar industry, that, oh, sure, I do PR for that industry, but they don't understand it. Maybe they don't even, they don't. We can't. I mean, I don't mean understand it. They don't have the knowledge, because we're generalists, so we can learn things fast. I mean, they don't feel it. Like, if you don't get it, if you don't feel something, if you have something, then you're just not the person for that. You're just not going to be serving your client well. So don't take the money, walk away, and take on the things you care about. Then you'll have more fun. You'll enjoy and you'll have more ideas. Strategically, you'll have more ideas, because you really get it and you're excited about it. So you want to make other people excited about it. And that's what the job is. I can present, I could market anything. I have those skills, but I feel like I'm better at it when I love it. Right.
So that brings a point. What should people look for in a publicist? What should they, obviously, because you were talking about, if they don't love it, then they're not going to be, I have to write this press release. If they love it, they're going to have that energy for it. So what should people look for when they hire a publicist?
That they understand your mission and your goals. Like in that initial conversation, when you're having that conversation, that what are they asking you? What are they saying? Do you feel like they get what you're saying? I mean, they don't have to be like a huge #1 fan. Maybe they're understanding it. It's something new you're explaining, but they're enthusiastic about you, or about your ideas, or about so basically, #1, I mean, obviously, we know that you're looking at skills. You wouldn't be having the conversation with them if you hadn't determined that they're skillful, right? So obviously you want someone who's skilled and know, but let's assume that all publicists have those skills, right? So then you want the really enthusiasm, somebody who's excited about your project, not just, oh yeah, sure, another one, throw it on the pile, but actually that can, you want to hear things like, you'll hear with conversations with me, you'll hear me interrupting my new client on the phone before they even hired me. Oh, and then I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I just got really excited. I just had an idea.
Yeah.
And at the end of those calls, these all potential clients are always like, oh, I love your energy. You're really because I'm connected with their idea. I got what they were saying, and I think the world should know about it. And that's why you need to hire me, that kind of thing, right? And then we are literally partners. It feels like partners in trying to get that messaging out. And I get just as excited as they do when I get a hit like just now, and I can't wait to get off the phone so that I can tell Lou that we got Reader's Digest. That's never going to get old, no matter how long I do it. It's always fun. It's always a woohoo, we got it.
I love that. So do you work by yourself? Do you suggest people go with a big firm or go with someone who's a small firm?
So I have no experience working in a big firm, but I know, like my clients have, and they tell me, like I have a Beverly Hills client or who let her California publicist go to hire me here in Toronto, and then ultimately the entry, like, you've done way more than any publicist done for me. So I think a lot of times when you hire a big firm, you're talking on the phone to someone senior like me for like an hour, and then all the work is being done by a junior, just like, So you're paying, and they charge $3,000 a month, 3 months minimum, no question, in a big firm. And again, 90% of the time, a newbie is actually working on most of your file with a senior person like me overlooking it. With me, I need to learn to allocate better, and hopefully this year I'm gonna become more of a job creator and stuff. But like to date, to me, like every single thing has I do it all, and and at least, a couple times when I've had, like I have had it last year, I had a junior publicist or someone I was training for a while that did some stuff. But even so, like I was completely overseeing like every little bit. Like I do all the writing because I won't let that go, because you're hiring me and my reputation and my results, So someday maybe I'll try to figure out that, there must be, I know there's other people that are as good as me, that I could trust it. But right now it's really hard to, I'm passionate about these people and these clients and these projects. It's not like I don't want to just farm it out to someone at a lower rate. And that's what these bigger companies do. It's just the nature of any kind of big company, right? You have your team leader, that's the impressive one, the bio that you read, the me, and then the people that are actually working on your file are people just out of school, which is fine. I mean, they have skills too. I want to hire someone just out of college because they're probably great on the TikTok, which I'm not, you know what I mean? So they're definitely, but you know what I'm saying? There's like, there's that trade-off.
Wow. So you mentioned some clients. Are there any clients that we have probably heard of?
So I've worked with a lot of people. Like one of my clients, or he's not currently a client, but he's more like I'm an agent for him, is DJ Speedy, who's produced 65 plus top 100 hits for Beyonce, for Jay-Z, for a million people like that you can think of. Rosa Parks' cousin, who is Angela Sadler Williamson, Rosa Parks of the Out of Our Bus book, American hero. Her cousin wrote a book. Actually, first she did a film, an award-winning film called My Life with Rosie. And then just recently, just this year, right before COVID, she put out a book called a children's book, actually, called My Life with Rosie, A Bond Between Cousins, talking about the 30 years after what happened after all that. Rosa Parks continued public service for another 30 years. And I'm working with people. I mean, it all depends who you are. The world is so fragmented now that very famous people, we don't all know them all, right?
Yeah.
Like one of my clients, for example, she's in Africa. She's one of the biggest, most well-known television stars in Africa, with 3 different TV shows, including one called Shiro's, seen in 9 continents. And right now she's just about to do an international version of Shiro's. So she's actually asked me to executive produce it, as well as being the publicist, which is amazing. And So that's coming out too, and that's going to be. I have another client that you don't know yet, but he's working on a television series, a sci-fi series called The Secret of Svalbard, a Canada-British co-production. And that's going to be, so I'm working on a lot of things. Also, Richard Pryor Jr. I did some work with him, who's the son of Richard Pryor, who's also a entertainer on his own, and he wrote an amazing book last year called A Pryor Life, about growing up and under the spotlight and stuff. So yeah, all kinds of different projects, all kinds of everything. Oh, and right now, one of my jobs right now is to look up, I don't work, he's not a client, but on my to-do list is literally to get in touch with Dave Gilmour of Pink Floyd, because Document Records that I work with in the UK, which are literally like a storehouse of an incredible cultural and American history of all the jazz, blues, church, all kinds of music from the 10s, 20s, 30s, just huge cultural history in America. And I don't know if you're a Pink Floyd fan, but the question, which one's Pink? And they would say, well, there was a Pink. It just wasn't one of the members of Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd was named after two old black jazz artists, one called Pink Anderson, and Pink Anderson Jr., who's in a film that the Document Records created about his dad and his dad's legacy, is, where we're doing a documentary. Basically, we want to speak to Dave Gilmour and have him talk about why they named the band Pink Floyd after Pink Anderson, answering the question of which one's pink. So that's the life of a publicist in my basement in Toronto. Like, literally, that was on my to-do list yesterday to be done sometime this month. And I posted, you might be a publicist, when on your to-do list is like, get a hold of that guy from Pink Floyd.
So you run your business from your basement. Is that what you were just saying?
My basement office right now in the age of COVID, that's where I am. Like I said, in 2019, I was everywhere. You'd be interviewing me with the fancy little hotel lights in the background. And I was in the Mediterranean. I was in the Caribbean, all for work. It was like, I was so lucky. I'm just amazed. And now I'm looking back, it's funny. It's like the world let me have that, because the next year was going to be like, you're not going anywhere. Just get at home and do some work. So, yeah.
I love that. Do some work.
And I was working in all those places. That was all for work projects. But still, I can't complain about being in Vegas, working under palm trees, or going, But not this year. This year it's Hamilton Mountain, not Hollywood Hills. So feel sorry for me, please.
What do your kids think about mom being a publicist?
It's so funny. My kid, he's just literally, my younger one, he takes it all in stride. I'll show him, oh, look, I was in this magazine. He's like, yeah, you're always in magazines. I was like, okay. And then it was funny because the other day, a couple of months ago, he was actually assigned for civics class, a unit. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. He comes and shows me. He had a unit on wrongful convictions. And he looks at me and he says, I think we both know what I'm going to be writing about. I said, oh, okay, good. Jimmy will be happy to hear about that, so you can ask him questions or whatever else. And then, so he goes off to do his research because he's not going to have mom sit there over him. And I had showed him, when we were quoted in Rolling Stone a year ago, I showed the 16-year-old, look, we're quoted in Rolling Stone about helping to get an innocent guy off death row. Right? Well, he's the 16. It's mom stuff. He's only half listening. So all of a sudden, he's got this assignment for school about wrongful convictions. And so he remembers Jimmy Dennis, and he knows so he's going to go Google. So he goes and Googles, and he starts reading like research, right? So he pulls up this Rolling Stone article, and he starts reading it. And then he comes running in, Mom, you are in this Rolling Stone article. And I'm like, So now he noticed, and in his own life when he found it independently, but otherwise it's just noise, apparently just something parents do. But I mean, but there was a time when, he felt really empowered because he's on the autism spectrum, really smart, but on the autism spectrum. And I don't know if you have any understanding of school boards and special needs, but it can be a nightmare.
Okay.
Yeah. You're nodding like you get that. So we had dealt with some crap. And then I was just thinking that it was just me and my family dealing with it. I didn't realize it was institutional and that every special needs mom was dealing with it. And I ended up running for school board as a result to try to help make noise about that, which was successful. But anyway, not winning, but the platform. But so I was able to bring the power of, the media down when the school board said to me in my day, or the principal said, in my day, he'd get the strap, when I was saying that he wasn't getting his IEP, so he shouldn't be punished for acting like an autistic kid, which wasn't out of line. It wasn't crazy. It was just things that you would expect an autistic kid versus a neurotypical kid. That's why you have the IEP. And so when the IEP wasn't being respected and they were hitting him with all this stuff that he just couldn't handle, he was acting out or freezing up or whatever. And then he was going to get negative marks in school for it. And he wasn't allowed to be, not marks in terms of your grade, but I mean, he was losing hours in school and all this stuff. So I had to advocate for that. And when that principal said, and I was friends with all the teachers, but the principals are different. And she said, in my day, he'd get the strap. And I just saw it as a headline. I'm sorry. I was like, oh, man, what was that now? Okay. And so I wrote the press release because I know how to do that. And the next day, I thought they would be interested, and they were. But I didn't expect, no word of a lie, the national newspaper, or not newspaper, the television station, to pull their truck up and show up on the date of our meeting. The school board, the school freaked out. They thought it was going to sue them immediately. All of a sudden, it was like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, 3 bags full, ma'am. They comply. They, made sure my son, all of a sudden, they put him in a good school, which interestingly, all of a sudden, you could tell I'm taking him to the good school. And there's like Rolls Royces in the car park, like all the high-end cars in the parking lot. You could see it. And it was an amazing class and an amazing teacher, but why does it have, and it was a public school, but why does it have to be in the rich school where all of a sudden it's good services, right? So, and it's funny because I'm using the media. My son, I would never have done it if he was not comfortable. He was only 11. I was like, do you want to, be in this? Do you want to do this or not? He was like, yep. And, because it was delicate, I don't want to use him for that, right? But then when the Now magazine, he's like, oh, it didn't come out. When the Now magazine came out, I got a picture of him sitting there open reading about, because it was wrong what happened. And we were like, nope, that's not. And they had to apologize to us. And he felt empowered. He was like, in a good way, not like a snotty way. So, yeah, the power of the media. And, what made me think of that, though, that's great. I was able to get change for my kid. But what about all those moms who don't know how to write a press release?
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. And I love how you brought in special needs, because it seems like lately that's all I've been interviewing is finding out it's not even on the press release half the time, but most of the people that I'm interviewing are special needs parents, and they're trying to either bring awareness about their special needs, or they're writing books that have characters that have special needs in it.
Oh,
so that
amazing.
They can bring awareness about it. So I love that you brought that up. We didn't even discuss that.
Thank you.
So is there anything else you want to share before we hop off?
No, just if you had a rough year, let me refer back to, remember we were talking about Jimmy Dennis, now he's a musician now and everything. He's got a brand new song just released in December. Now I'm his publicist. See, he used to be on death row and I was trying to get him out. Now he's a musician. I was publicist. But honestly, he had a song called Tears this year, which is, we've all had a really rough year. And this is like a positive. His thing is never, never give up. And that's what kept him through 25 years on death row. And that's no joke. That was really never, never give up. And so this is a rough year for all of us. It's people having, financial issues, job issues, mental health issues, family issues. It's really a rough one, but just never, never give up and keep going, and check out that song Tears this year, which is like a positive gift to the world from a guy who really knows how bad it can get and how good it can get at the other side. So yeah, check out my page, LamourieMedia.com, and all that stuff. You can find me, Tracy Lamourie, if you're interested in PR, but I'd much rather you check out Tears This Year by Jimmy Dennis and feel better.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you. Where can people find you? But you just told us.
Tracy Lamourie, PR Media, LamourieMedia.com, Facebook, I live there.
You live on Facebook, I love that. So Tracy, I really want to thank you for coming on and sharing such great tips. And I am going to check out that website, Help a Reporter Out, because I think that's a really great. And is there anything else, anything that I can ever do for you, even for your clients? I would love to book them on the podcast.
I would love to pitch you some awesome clients. Yeah, I just got to,
yes.
And I see you do like food, lifestyle. So there's I got authors, everybody's fascinating. So I'll send you some pictures and you can tell me who's in your, what sounds good. We'll set that up.
Basically, right now it's like people with not even extraordinary stories, just everyday people with life. So just stories.
Okay, beautiful. I got some great guests for you. That'd be amazing.
All right. Well, thank you. And guys, we will see you on the next chat from the Blog Cabin. Bye, guys.